We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Karl. Karl says, first of all, Dread in 3D? Does the 3D enhance the narrative in the way that with that film, like it does with Life of Pi, Avatar, or Doctor Strange? First of all, I haven't seen Life of Pi. I did see Avatar, or Doctor Strange in 3D. So I did see Avatar in 3D. It was a long time ago. I really thought that the scenes where like people were doing the slow-mo drug thing were going to be like super cool in 3D.
Oh.
They were kind of okay in 3D, but it was more noticeable like when there was almost the parallax stuff where, you know, Dread's in front, somebody else is behind and stuff like that. Which is kind of funny because when you're filming something in 2D, the person, you know, they focus on one person, they focus on the other person. So in 3D, it shouldn't be that way. Everybody should be in focus, right? Right?
Yeah, it's a stylistic choice. Yeah, it's something they struggle with, filmmakers.
So, did it enhance the narrative? I didn't think so, but you know,
I thought it did. I thought it
was okay.
At points, the visuals were enhanced by the 3D effect in a way that you wouldn't get the same effect in flat 2D. So I felt it was an enhancement.
It was not. Oh God, I just can't stop. Okay, forget it. Listen to Rob, because Rob can be more positive than I can be. So Karl says he went ahead and ordered the JVC 3D glasses and emitter. Dr. Strange convinced him, as he felt the 2D presentation was almost like a part of that world was missing when compared to what he's seen at his IMAX laser 3D theater. Great. I totally want to buy Doctor Strange anyways because I love that movie. But even though the story is pretty simplified compared to some of the other Marvel movies that are out there, and it definitely could have been a little bit deeper, but I felt like they kept it a little light, and that was okay, considering that story could have gone way, you know, Batman v Superman, Dawn of crap, which is what that was. But and they managed to keep it light, so I was okay with it. But I might buy that and try it again with the 3D. 3D glasses are sitting right there. This projector hasn't gone back yet, but it most likely will. Most likely. So he asks also, Joe Kane was on Home Theater Geeks 2 weeks ago, and they talked about using a bias light with a projector screen. What do we think of this proposal? With a light wrapped all around the projection screen makes sense and enhance the viewing experience. So for those who don't know,
thoughts on this for sure.
Yeah, the bias light, the idea here is that you there's a light that, like behind your TV. You ever seen those TV that kind of glow? You know, the Ideal Loom. Is that what it was called? Ideal Loom? Is that right? Ideal Glow?
Well, Ideal Loom is a company that sells backlights, bias lights that you can add. That's Ideal Loom. I think it was Philips Ambilight.
Ambilight
was the ones who built it in.
So the idea here is that, you know, there's a light behind there so that there's not this dramatic, you know, you're in this pitch black room and then there's this really bright screen, and it gives sort of a contrast there, so that the contrast there isn't so dramatic between scenes to scenes when you go from dark to light. And you've seen this happen before, I know you have, in movies where you're in a real dark scene, all of a sudden, boom, you know, it's like in the desert someplace. You're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm blind now.
It enhances your perception of black levels because it, as the name implies, it biases your eye. It stops your pupil from opening all the way up, because there is some ambient light in the room, but that ambient light is behind the screen, so it's not washing out the screen, hopefully.
Theoretically.
It's just making sure that your pupil doesn't open all the way up, so that way your perception of the black levels is enhanced. Blacks look blacker because you have something to contrast them against in this light that's coming from behind the screen.
I don't hate this idea for projection screens, to be honest with you. I don't hate it.
And there are some companies that sell. Exactly. Elite has an option for this. Illuminavision has an option for this. Yeah.
You know, a lot of times projection screens, especially since, you know, they pick up any light that's going on in the room whatsoever.
Right.
They can have a very grayish look rather than a black look. I feel like with HDR, I feel like we're getting away from needing stuff like this. That
well, it's funny because Joe Kane was saying that HDR with projectors is increasing the need for a bias light,
so that your eyes don't close all the way when we go to the dark. Yeah,
that's right.
I don't know about that. I don't know, but I'm not going to argue with Joe Kane. I'm not dumb. I mean, I'm not dumb enough to think that I know something more than Joe Kane does. But I kind of feel like this is not a terrible idea for projection screens. It will help that darkness seem a little bit darker. Then again, the whole idea of having a projector is that you have a completely blacked out room. You get the movie like the movie experience, and that movie experience is meant to be in a really dark room.
Right.
So for me, it'd be one of these try it, see if you like it things, and be prepared to return it.
So my feeling on this is that, and Joe Kane touched upon this, but I don't think he said it really, really clearly and explicitly, which is that to make this work in a projection setup, you need to really carefully construct your room and think about it. Because what you really want to avoid is, let's say you have light-colored walls and ceiling, right? White walls and ceiling, or just light-colored, reflective, glossy paint, whatever it is. So this light is coming from behind the screen, but it is reflecting off of these other surfaces in your room, getting back onto the front of the screen via reflections and washing out your image. You don't want that. So to make a bias light with a projection screen work, you really need a blacked-out room. Because you have to make sure that that bias light that's coming from behind the screen is not going to end up back on the front of the screen via reflections to wash out your image. So you need a really non-reflective room. Now, of course, we're talking about Joe Kane, so he already had a non-reflective room. All right, he was already had a bat cave, so that's not a consideration. It's like, of course, that's what you already had. So now we can add a bias light. It's not going to reflect around the room and get back onto the screen. But for most people, I would say this could end up doing more harm than good, because it's like turning on a lamp that you've positioned behind your screen, right?
Yeah.
If you have reflective walls and ceiling, that's going to end up washing out your image. So you really need a blacked out room. More than that, you got to make sure that that light is only shooting backwards and outwards from the screen frame, because no screen is 100% opaque.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. I was like,
so
you know what?
Yeah,
you gotta make sure it's firing out and not it's not just glowing behind your screen, because then it's going to illuminate through like the sides of the screen, and
especially what if you have acoustically transparent, right? You don't want to see the bias light coming through the screen from behind it, backlighting it. So again, your entire front wall needs to be matte black to make sure that the light that's shining backwards isn't going to reflect off the front wall and then come through the screen from the back. So I agree. I actually do agree. I think this is a good idea for enhancing your perception of the black levels. It enhances your perception of the contrast of the image, as long as everything else about the room is set up to maximize that experience and not wash out your image any further. Otherwise, more harm than good.
Yeah. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.